Who created God? The question that shakes the mind. Pause for a moment. Imagine yourself standing under an open sky on a silent night. The air is light. There is no noise. The light is dim. And your eyes are raised upward, toward those stars that are not thousands, not millions, but billions in number, shining above you. Galaxies, distances, vastness. A view that makes a human being feel small. And in that very moment, suddenly, a question is born in your mind. A question you may have asked in childhood. Or perhaps even today, in some quiet moment, rising from a corner of your heart. If God created all of this, then who created God? This is not just a question. It is one of the most powerful questions in human history. It is the question that kept philosophers restless for centuries. It is the question that raised objections against religions. It is the question that stands like a crack between faith and denial. But do you know what the most surprising thing is? This question is not wrong. This question is not foolish. This question is not disrespectful. Rather, this question is a sign that a human being thinks. And today, I will not tell you what to believe. Today, I will sit with you and think. Today, I will not give you a lecture. Today, I want to take you on a journey. A journey that will begin in the mind, pass through logic, grow deeper through stories, and finally reach the heart. So come, let us try to understand this question. The question that feels natural. If everything was created by someone, then who created God? Why does this question feel so logical to us? Because our mind works within a specific system. We live in a world of cause and effect. You enter a room, there is a chair. You immediately know, someone must have made it. You hold a mobile phone in your hand. You know, an engineer designed it, it was manufactured in a factory. There are clouds in the sky. You know, vapor rose, cooling happened, clouds formed. You yourself exist here. You know, parents, lineage, an entire chain. Every experience of our life teaches us one thing. Nothing happens on its own. So when someone says, this entire universe was created by God, the mind immediately takes the next step. Alright, then who created God? This question is natural. This question is rational. This question is human. But here lies a delicate point. Sometimes the principles we use in daily life do not apply to every reality. The limits of human thinking. Let me give you an example. Suppose there is a child who has lived since birth in a small room. 4 walls, 1 roof, 1 door. He has never seen the outside world. For that child, everything has walls. Every place has a roof. Everything has a boundary. Now if someone comes and tells him, outside this room, there is a sky that has no roof. The child will immediately ask, alright, then where is the roof of that sky? Is the child's question foolish? No. He is asking according to his limited experience. This is the same problem with the question about God. We live in time. We think in space. We cannot think without, before, and after. But if there exists a being, who is before time? Who is outside space? Who is not dependent on limits? Can we apply the same rules to that being that we apply to a chair, a phone, or a cloud? This is where the wall of human thinking appears. First story, the sand palace. A man was sitting by the seashore. The sand was wet. Slowly, he was building a beautiful palace. Towers, doors, walls, everything in order. A child passed by. He stopped. His eyes widened. He said, "Who made this?" The man smiled. "I did." The child thought for a moment, then asked, "All right, then who made you?" The man replied, "My parents did." The child, "And who made them?" The man, "Their parents." The child, "And who made them?" The question continued, generation after generation, backward and backward. Finally, the child said, "Then who made the very first human?" The man fell silent. For a few moments, he watched the ocean waves. Then he said, "My child, if we keep looking for a maker for every maker, this chain will never end. Somewhere, there must be a being who is not dependent on anyone." This is the point where philosophy is born. Infinite regress. If everything depends on something else, and that depends on something else, and that depends on something else, then the question is, where does this chain stop? If this chain never stops, then nothing could ever come into existence. It is like saying, "I will climb the stairs," but the first step will never exist. Philosophers say, Somewhere, there must be an independent reality. A being, whose existence does not rely on anything else. In philosophy, this is called the necessary being, and in Islamic terminology, Wajib-ul-Wujood. Everything else is possible existence. You, me, the universe. We could have existed, or we could have not existed. But God, He is not like that. He had to exist. The chain that goes nowhere. There is an old historical tale. It is said that there was a king, very intelligent, very inquisitive. One day, he summoned a philosopher to his court and asked, "What is this earth standing on?" The philosopher replied confidently, "Your Majesty, on a very large animal." The king asked, "All right, and what is that animal standing on?" The philosopher said, "On another animal." The king, "And that one?" The philosopher, "On a giant fish." The king, "And that fish?" The philosopher, "On water." The king, "And the water?" The philosopher paused. He thought for a few moments, then said, "Your Majesty, after that, it is peace upon peace." Laughter echoed through the court. Because everyone understood, this explanation leads nowhere. It only keeps pushing the question forward. And this is the exact same problem with the question. If God was created, then who created the Creator? If this chain never stops, then reality itself never truly begins. That is why reason is forced to accept. At some point, there must be a being, for whom the question, who created it, can no longer be asked. Not because the question is forbidden, but because that being changes the very definition of a creator. Understanding the definition of God. A fundamental mistake often happens here. We also think of God as a thing. Like, this chair is a thing. This table is a thing. This universe is a thing. So the mind says, God must also be a thing, just very powerful. But no, God is not a thing. God is not a creation. God is not inside the universe. God is the foundation of existence itself. If a chair comes into existence, if a table is made, if the universe comes into being, then God is that reality, because of which existence itself becomes possible. That is why when we ask, who created God, what we are actually saying is, who gave a foundation to the foundation of existence? And that question collapses on itself. The Islamic concept, who is Allah? Islam does not make an emotional claim here. Islam first clarifies the definition. The Quran says, Allah is the one who is Ahad, one, without equal. Samad, all depend on him, he depends on none. Lam Yalid, he has no offspring. Wal Lam Yulid, and he was not born. This last point is extremely important. Wal Lam Yulid, meaning, Allah was not created. This is not a stubborn claim. It is a rational conclusion. Because if Allah were created by someone, then he would become a creation himself. And a creation cannot be God. The very definition of God is that he is uncreated. Time, the real barrier. Now, understand time. When we say, who created, that question contains before and after. First there was nothing, then it was created, but all of this exists inside time. Now the question is Allah inside time? Islam says, no, time itself is a creation of Allah. And interestingly, modern science says the same thing. What does science say? According to Big Bang Theory, time began with the universe. Space began with the universe. Matter began with the universe. Before the Big Bang, there was nothing, no clock, no moment, no second. So the question arises, if time itself did not exist, where did before and after come from? That is why asking about Allah, when was he created, is like asking, which day existed before time? This is not a problem of reality. It is a deception of language. An example, the author and the story. Imagine a novel. The novel has characters. They wake up in the morning. They sleep at night. Years pass. Now imagine a character in that story asking, on which day was the author born? In which chapter of this story does the author exist? That question would be meaningless. Because the author is not inside the time of the story. Allah is the author of the universe. He is not inside the universe's time. Common objections, simple answers. Objection 1. This is all just belief, there is no proof. Answer. Not everything can be proven in a laboratory. Can you measure justice? Can you weigh love? Can you put consciousness inside a bottle? Yet, are these things not real? The existence of God is not a scientific experiment, but a rational conclusion. Objection 2. If God is eternal, why isn't the universe eternal too? Because the universe changes. Anything that changes cannot be eternal. That which is eternal does not need to change. God is perfect, and perfection does not require change. Objection 3. This is all a human invention. The question is not, why do people believe in God? The real question is, why do humans, in every era, every civilization, every language, arrive at the same question? Why does a human, when alone, look up and ask, where did I come from? This question is inherited within us. The emotional turn, what is the real question? Now pause for a moment. After all this logic, all this philosophy, all this science, if we are honest, the real question was never, who created God? The real question is, does my life have any meaning? Because if there is no God, then life is an accident. Pain is meaningless, goodness is coincidence, and death is a complete end. But if God exists, then every tear is counted, every good deed is preserved, and every life has purpose. The silence that speaks. Some questions cannot be answered with words. When you look at the ocean, you don't explain it, you feel it. When you love someone, you don't argue, you live it. God is like that. That is why the mystics say, that which can be fully spoken is not God. This is not denial. This is humility. Conclusion. The line that stays with you. So in the end, who created God? This question is a door. If you ask it in anger, it becomes a wall. If you ask it with curiosity, it becomes a path. And when you walk that path, one day you realize, this question was never really about, who created God? The real question was, am I ready to understand God? And when you were ready, God is not found somewhere far away. He was already there, in your breath, in your heartbeat, in your question, and then the heart becomes silent, and certainty begins to speak. Thank you.